Hey everyone, welcome to Unearth with Shelly Hughes podcast. I'm Shelly Hughes. In this podcast, we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of starting and running a successful business. I like to talk about the wins, the losses, the challenges, the lessons learned about building a profitable, passionate brand. This is part two of the personal branding in 2025 episode. I started part one last week and really talked about why you should have a personal brand, what it means, a lot of the misconceptions and a lot of the fears that people have around building a personal brand. And today I want to talk about actually how to do it, how to think about building a personal brand. So if you haven't listened to last week's episode, please do, because that really talks about the reason I'm discussing this, where I see it in my 2025 predictions in marketing, and that I think is 2 episodes ago. So I guess 16 and 15. Um, so check those out because I think that really sets us up for what we're going to be talking about today. So you decide you want to build out a personal brand to really help you today, your business today, your position today, and really anything you do in the future. Because like I said in episode 16 is, you know, building a personal brand is an investment into your future self. So let's say you're a marketing director and you're really successful in your career and you want to build this personal brand. You build this personal brand, you figure out that one niche, that one topic that you talk about over and over and over again, that one audience with that one problem, and we'll talk about how to define those today. Um, and all of a sudden, you want to start your own business. Instead of, instead of building a brand for a business that may come and go, can get sold, there's mergers and acquisitions every day, businesses close down every day. If you build a personal brand, you decide to leave that position and start a business, that audience that's very loyal to you and loves what you have to say and loves everything that you're about is going to follow you. And even from there, if you decide to write a book, if you decide to start a mastermind, if you decide to launch a course, if you decide to start 3 other businesses, that audience is going to follow you and support you and shout your name from the rooftops in anything you do in the future. So how do you start? So in branding for clients and their businesses, which I recommend doing this the same for yourself, is developing what I like to call your brand DNA. And these are unchangeable characteristics that a business or your personal brand has, that makes you you. Um, and this sometimes is really hard for people to um, define, right? Unchangeable characteristics. Like, what does that mean? And so I think there's a lot of introspective work that has to happen within that, just because a lot of these unchangeable characteristics come directly from lessons learned in your life. And so, and it's really based on your story. And, I just, I facilitated a 2025 planning session with some people on my team and other people in my community. This was, a few weeks ago. And I I talked about what was that one software update that you had this year. And I called a software update because I think that we always have these truths within us. And sometimes, hopefully a lot of the time, at least once a year, we realize that we were wrong, that those truths were actually not true. And at the end of every year, I like to think of at least one, what I like to call software update that I had that year. And it's something that I just felt, very confident about in the beginning of the year, that something happened sometime throughout the year that I realized, that's not exactly as true as I thought it would be. And it's this and it's kind of showing that yes, you were wrong about something, about an opinion you had, about a perspective you had. And I that was one of the questions I asked in this workshop for planning for 2025. And one thing I said is, if you're thinking and thinking and thinking and you can't think of a software update, a time that you were wrong about a perception or a truth that you thought was real, that's not a very good thing, right? Because we're always trying to grow and evolve and prove ourselves wrong. And so when you're developing your brand DNA, I would really start with your story. Um, what were those software updates throughout your life, right? And how did you find them? What happened? Sometimes it's very traumatic, right? Sometimes it's usually based on mistakes that you made. It's based off of times you felt really embarrassed. And so I would kind of start there, kind of do a little bit of a founder origin story in yourself, and try to think of the times where you were proven wrong or you had those software updates, and really how that made you rethink how you approach different types of challenges, or different people in your life. And you know another thing is, you know focus is just so important when it comes to building out a personal brand. Let's think about the personal brands that are out there that are really big right now. There's the Tony Robbins, there's the Oprahs, there's the Gary Vaynerchuks, right? And what's so funny is they talk about a million different things. Tony Robbins, he talks about marriage and life and mindfulness and happiness and you know, um, you know, health and nutrition, right? He talks about a million different things. The only reason he can do that is because he's Tony Robbins. Same with Gary Vaynerchuk. He talks about a million different things. Oprah can talk about whatever he wants. And the only reason they can do that is because they have already established a personal brand. And so when you're just starting out, you know, you might have all these different ideas. But what I challenge you to do is pick the one thing. It's to pick the one problem that you solve. And to go even deeper, how can you describe that one problem in one word? And this, you know, I'm about to say don't overthink it, but sometimes it's so obvious to other people, and it might be very obvious to you, but this might take some time for you to really think about. Is, if I could describe the problem that I solve in one word, what would it be? Then focus on that one word. Because I really feel like a diluted focus really equals diluted results. I think there's a lot of distraction in what we ingest, right? Um, there's a million ways to make money. There's a million ways to talk about ideas. There's a million different ideas that are really important to kind of the bigger picture of business and marketing and whatever industry that you're in. You know, you know, there the whole idea of like multiple streams of income has been very big recently. Um, you know, People say, oh, multiple streams of income. I'm going to create courses, are the next big thing to make me tons of money, or masterminds are the next big thing, or online businesses, or automated businesses, or service-based businesses, right? Having as many products, right? So many multiple streams of income and then I'll be rich, right? And it's the same idea with ideas. If I have so many ideas and I talk about so many things, I'm going to look really, dynamic and seem really dynamic. But for the Garys, the Tonys, and the Oprahs, in the beginning, they stuck with one thing. And I think of this as, it's kind of like, a sledgehammer. I heard this analogy before, it was years ago. This sledgehammer hitting a cement wall, right? If you take a sledgehammer and you hit a cement wall all over the cement wall, you're barely going to make a dent. But if you focus on a single spot in that cement wall over and over and over again, you're going to feel like a broken record. You're going to be annoyed at your own voice. But it's this same idea. You're hitting this exact spot over and over and over again. Eventually, you're going to make a crack. And if you keep hitting that same spot over and over and over again, the crack is going to get bigger. And there might be a little bit of a hole. And at some point, once you hit that same crack over and over and over again, and you have this really focused approach, the wall's going to tumble down. And that's how you see the Tonys and the Oprahs and the Garys of the world. They were able to break down that wall, and now they can talk about anything they want, and people are going to be behind them. Even Mel, they're going to be behind them every step of the way because they've already built this personal brand for themselves. And so as you're starting out, a diluted focus is going to equal diluted results. So, and this is something that you can kind of think of is, okay, what are the things you have to really focus on? And this is for business, this is for personal brand, but mainly personal brand when it relates to a business, being the CEO, being the founder. I told you to choose that one problem, right? That one word, one problem. Do some introspective work, figure out your brand DNA, figure out, all that kind of stuff. But think to yourself, what is the one problem that I solve? Who is the one audience that I can serve in the deepest way? In one sentence, how do I solve that problem? And then what is going to be the one revenue stream that makes the deepest impact? So that's problem in one word, the one audience, the the way you solve it, and the revenue stream. If you can define and really, really focused for each of those, you're going to have that, and you are committed to really breaking down that wall and hitting that same spot in the cement wall over and over and over again. At one point, that wall is going to fall, and you're going to be able to kind of take it wherever you want to go. But it takes a lot of time commitment, and it takes a lot of focus and determination to do that. But within that, I want to talk about ideas a little bit. After we discuss brand DNAs with clients and their businesses, and again, this relates directly to personal brands, I always challenge them to develop a unique point of view. And this unique point of view, and this can be part of that, the problem, like it can be within this. It's the driver, it's the North Star for everything you talk about. So a unique point of view could be something that you see is going wrong in your industry, that people aren't doing right in your industry. And again, you're gonna feel like a broken record. But here's the thing, and I deal with this with clients all the time when we manage their social media. We always have this this social media post approval process. Of course, so nothing goes out that isn't supposed to, and we're really on track. And clients say, "Oh, we already talked about this." I'm like, yeah, that's the point, right? To us, we feel like a broken record, but to your audience, social media is so fast, and it the lifespan of it is so short that they're going to forget, you know, what you're saying within seconds of you posting it and them seeing it. And so it takes 7 to 12 touches to make a sale, all these things that we know deep in our hearts, but we feel like we can't repeat ourselves on social media because we're going to feel like broken records. Developing this point of view of thinking, okay, what's wrong with what's wrong with my industry? What are people not doing right? What do people have to understand? What frustrates them and what frustrates me because they don't get it? And the magic behind developing this point of view is you want to develop one that might ruffle a few feathers. Because the more feathers this point of view ruffles, the more it will also attract. There might be some people that say, this is not for me, and that's fine. But there's going to be a much bigger pool of people that not just are attracted to you, but are staying loyal to you because you have touched a point in them of saying, I couldn't have said that better myself. I'm thinking the exact same thing. I'm frustrated about the exact same thing. So that is part of the process that I think is just incredibly important, is in your personal brand and in your business brand, find that point of view and stick to it and develop content around it. Have that be your North Star. Repeat it over and over and over again like a broken record. And that goes into, that goes into ideas, right? I think, I said in the last episode, I said, don't wait until you have defined success to start a personal brand, because people are here for your journey. At the same time, if you're not putting intentional effort behind ideas, then you're always going to have mediocre ideas. And we know there's no such thing as an original idea. There's no such idea. There's no such thing as an original movie script. because ideas are just, they build on top of one another. I think ideas are what really expedite the growth of a personal brand. And right now, you might have a lot of ideas, but to be honest, they're probably pretty mediocre. And mediocre ideas aren't really going to cut it. So, how can you think deeper about your ideas? How can you think bigger about your ideas? And, I heard this before. There are leaders in the space that take 2 hours twice a month just to sit down with a pen and paper and to think and to come up with the ideas. Um, I recommend doing that because, I think if we don't, as leaders, ideas are our craft, right? As people who are building things, ideas are what are going to move the needle the most, especially if they can be executed, of course. So if we are thinking about our day to day and, putting out the fires every single day, we don't take time to turn our mediocre ideas into amazing ones, because that's really going to, push the needle the most in terms of our content and being that thought leader. We're really doing a disservice to ourselves. Um, so think about that, because I think those ideas are going to come directly from your point of view, and it's going to directly impact your audience and how they think and how they feel, because that's probably how they think to begin with. I know a lot of this can be a little bit intimidating, a little bit confusing, saying, where do I start? Um, and I think, and even the fear that I talked about before is, I forget what this episode, or the part one, um, is we're just so self-centered, and we're so close to our zone of genius that sometimes we can't even see it for ourselves. So what I recommend is talk to the people that know you the most, and know you the most in different circles of your life. Maybe your business circles, maybe your family circles, maybe some another circle that you have, because they're going to see different sides of you, and ask them questions like, how have I helped you in the past? Right? What is my biggest strength? How does my mind work differently than yours? And I think if you talk to different people, and don't be afraid to ask people these questions, because if they're truly a friend of yours and truly a cheerleader, they're going to love this concept. And honestly, if they're, especially in the business circles, they might ask you straight back, because they understand what you're trying to get to. You're trying to understand, and it might be right in front of you, but you're too close to it, what your secret sauce is, what your genius is. So that might be a first step to do, is do some introspective work. What is your story? What are some of the software updates that you have really developed in your life? um, and then go to the people closest to you in different circles, and ask them what they think that your secret sauce is, because that can really open your eyes of like, oh, I did know that about myself, but I didn't realize how obvious it was. you know I solve problems for clients every single day, and a lot of times I think that the solutions to those problems are obvious, right? That everyone knows this. But that's not the case. There are so many things that we think are so easy, that we work on every single day, that we talk to people every single day about, that is simply not obvious. And going back to what I was discussing before about, you know, I think it was in the last episode of, you know, when you're nervous to start this, realize that you are massively positioned to help solve the problems that you had in your previous years. So everyone is on their own journey. Everyone is getting from, point A to point Z, right? And you might be at F and someone else is at C, right? And you're like, oh, I'm not at Z yet. I don't know all the answers. I'm not at Z. But there's someone on your same or very similar journey that is currently at letter C. And over here at F, you can say, hey, you know, I learned a lot of things when I was C, D, and E, right? I can help this person who might be a few steps behind me. And so think about that. You don't have to get to the end of the alphabet to start building and serving other people and being really clear on your mission. Because if you're clear on your mission of who you're trying to serve and how you're trying to serve them, then there should be no fear of building out a personal brand that is really helping just shout your ideas and your point of view and your solutions to the masses. Um, and just remember, people care more about the person than the product. So don't feel afraid. Don't feel weird about building a personal brand because, again, the people who are doing this out of ego, those are the personal brands who aren't. That's not going to work. The people who are building personal brands because they have this fire in them, they have this calling, they just know they have this solution for people that they have to they have to shout from the rooftops. Those are the ones that are going to be really successful. So, you know, we help clients with this all the time. A lot of we just signed on a new client, and she was discussing how she is not the founder, right? She is a incoming CEO of this company, and how can she really connect herself and her story to this company if she's not the founder? And I think that happens a lot, and it's just, if you are deeply connected to certain elements of the business, that I'm sure you would be, or else you wouldn't take the job, you believe in what the business does, you believe what's it about, then you can have kind of adjacent values and adjacent brand DNAs that can help the brand and the personal brand support one another. So what we do is, and we're kind of helping her through this in some fractional CMO work, is curating those stories that are already there, and then simply building the strategy, the systems, the team, and the tech to help them really launch this personal brand and make it really successful. So, look, I would love to hear if you like this episode. Again, please listen to the last episode because it gives a lot of background on personal branding, and episode 15 because that talks about a lot of my predictions about 2025 and where we're trying to get to. So check out those episodes. And if you like this episode, please rate and review. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. And send me a DM, right? I love to have conversations around these types of topics. And so if, I talk to anyone and everyone pretty much. So if you have something to say, I want to hear it, whether it's next to me on the couch or through Zoom or, on the podcast or offline. So I appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great day.